Humanity has always looked up at the stars and dreamed of, traversing impossible distances, maybe moving faster than light itself, and finding energy, limitless energy that defies everything we think we know. For so long, these are just science fiction ideas, right? They always bumped up against what seems like hard limits, the speed of light, the constant worry about energy. But what if those limits, the very foundations of reality as we understand them, weren't quite so final? What if they were just maybe misinterpretations of something deeper? Today, we're diving into a theoretical framework that really challenges these fundamental beliefs. It talks about faster than light travel, anti-gravity, clean, almost infinite energy. Not as impossible dreams, but as like natural consequences of seeing reality differently. This is really groundbreaking stuff, potentially paradigm shifting. Our source material for this journey comes from two papers: Coherence Warp Dynamics, Engineering the Field Geometry of Faster-than-Light Reality, and Hypergravity and the Coherence-Field Potential, Foundations of Warp-Drive Physics and Inertia-Free Propulsion. Both by Philip Randolph Lillian, dated 3035. Futuristic, I know, but the ideas. Oh, wow. So our mission today is to really dig into these papers, uncover how they propose to, and this is their phrase, engineer the field geometry of faster-than-light reality. And they do it by fundamentally redefining energy, inertia, space-time, the whole lot. It's not about finding loopholes in physics as we know it. It's about suggesting a deeper, maybe more elegant physics underneath. And the core idea, the big shift, it's moving from thinking about energy in the old way to thinking about something called coherence. Get ready, because this might just change how you see the universe. Okay, let's unpack this. The very first thing, maybe the most critical, is how these papers challenge our basic understanding of the vacuum, empty space, and specifically what we've traditionally called zero-point energy, or ZPE. That's been this kind of almost mythical concept for decades, hasn't it?
Absolutely. In conventional physics, ZPE is, well, it's usually seen as this sort of seething froth, stochastic, point-based, quantum fluctuations, think chaos.
Right, just random jittering everywhere.
Exactly. An irreducible random background field. Always there, even in a perfect vacuum. It comes from the Heisenberg uncertainty principle, basically, the minimal energy state. And yeah, for ages, people thought, maybe we can tap this chaotic energy. But it's proven really elusive, partly because it's seen as so random and, well, diffuse.
Like trying to harness noise.
Kind of, yeah. Like trying to get useful work out of the random jiggling of molecules in the air. It's energy, but it's not organized.
But these papers, they say that's not the whole picture, do they? They introduce this thing called the coherence-field potential, CFP. So what is the CFP? How's it different from that random jitter?
It's a really fundamental shift in perspective, a total reframing. The coherent field potential, CFP, is presented as the primary generative domain. It underlies and actually structures all the quantum stuff we know.
So ZPE isn't the source?
No, not in this model. ZPE is redefined as just the residual shadow, or surface noise of the CFP.
Okay, like static on a TV screen.
Exactly. You wouldn't say the static is the broadcast signal, right?
Yeah.
It's just the mess left over. The CFP is the actual signal, the organized transmission underneath all that noise. The contrast they draw is really stark. Let me quote from the source here. Where ZPE assumes absence infused with jitter, CFP assumes presence infused with structure.
Presence infused with structure.
Interesting. Where ZPE is random, CFP is resonant. Where ZPE is surface noise, CFP is ontological source. ZPE is the derivative. CFP is the generator.
Wow. So we've been looking at the ashes and calling it the fire.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
The papers literally call ZPE the ashes of coherence, or the collapsed and scattered remainder of a broken coherence condition. CFP isn't entropic, tending towards disorder. It's neogentropic. It generates and sustains order. It's the ontological substrate, the fundamental blueprint, the canvas reality is painted on. It's the original perfect resonance that exists before any collapse into randomness. And it's everywhere.
Okay, so if I'm following this, the really big shift isn't just finding a new energy source. It's seeing the universe as fundamentally ordered and resonant, not chaotic at its base. That's the core insight, that it's structure, not just randomness.
You've got it. That's the heart of the paradigm shift.
But then, what does that mean for something practical, like energy? If we're not trying to extract energy from chaos, how do we get it from the CFP? Because that changes everything about power generation.
Exactly. And this is where it gets really practical. In this model, energy isn't harvested from random noise. Instead, you extract it from coherence gradients.
Coherence gradients?
Yeah, think of them as structured imbalances within the omnipresent coherence field. So it's less like scooping random water from a choppy sea, and more like finding a powerful organized current, a river within the ocean, and channeling its flow.
Okay, tapping into order, not chaos.
Precisely. The old ZPE energy idea is roughly proportional to Planck's constant times frequency, right? Energy from quantum vibrations. But the CFP energy model says energy is proportional to the gradient, the change or slope of something called the coherence coefficient, lambda c. And X measures how aligned a local system is with this overall coherent substrate. So what this really means, conceptually, is that energy extraction isn't about brute force. It's not tapping stochastic noise. It's more elegant. It's about field alignment, resonance tuning, and dimensional emergence.
Harmonizing with the universe's structure.
Exactly, harmonizing with latent coherence channels. Imagine tuning a guitar string perfectly so it vibrates powerfully in sync with an invisible sound wave already filling the room.
You're not creating the sound, just tapping into it.
Right, you're tuning into a pre-existing structured flow. So energy isn't really generated from nothing. It's extracted by bringing a system into resonance with the cosmos's fundamental order.
Yeah.
It's about finding the inherent structure and creating like a pressure difference in that order to do work.
Okay, this is where it starts getting really interesting for me. Because redefining the vacuum like this, it doesn't just stop at energy. It starts to pull apart our understanding of gravity, inertia, quantum mechanics, even relativity itself. It's like finding a loose thread and realizing it could unravel the whole sweater of modern physics, but reveal something maybe more beautiful underneath. Let's start with this hypergravity. What on earth is that? Sounds big.
It is big, and it's not just like stronger gravity. That's not it at all. The hypergravity field is described as the coherence-sustaining invariant. It spans all dimensions, all scales. Think of it as the fundamental anchor, the cosmic scaffolding.
The structure that holds the coherence field itself together.
Kind of, yeah. It acts as the phase lock field that keeps things symmetric across different coherence domains, from tiny particles to huge galaxies. And here's the absolute kicker, the part that changes the game. Without coherence with this hypergravitational substrate, quantum systems collapse into decoherence. That's where we get the uncertainty, the randomness we observe. We're seeing a broken picture.
So the weirdness of quantum mechanics might be because we're not seeing the whole coherent system.
That's the implication. And similarly, macroscopic things like us or spaceships, they run into all those relativistic inertia penalties when they accelerate time dilation, mass increase, all that stuff. But, and this is the revolution with sustained coherence, quantum systems could remain deterministic, predictable, knowable.
No more probability clouds.
Potentially. And macroscopic systems could completely evade those relativistic penalties.
Wow.
It's like this hypergravity field is the hidden structure, and if you align with it, if you become coherent with it, you bypass the old rules. It's the constant underlying hum of order. Match its frequency, and you transcend the limits.
So what does that do to concepts like mass and inertia?
Right.
We usually think of those as just fixed properties. A thing has mass, it has inertia.
Well, this model turns that on its head. Mass and inertia get redefined. They're not fundamental fixed things anymore. They're emergent properties, consequences of coherence or lack thereof. Mass, for instance, isn't just intrinsic stuff. It's described as a localized coherence reduction.
A reduction, like a dent in the field.
Yeah, or a condensed mode of coherence. Imagine the CFP as a perfectly smooth, vibrating surface. Wherever there's a little disturbance, a local drop in that smooth coherence, that's where mass appears. The mass suggests mass is proportional to the integral of the coherence gradient. Basically, where coherence changes, mass condenses. It's like the resistance to coherence spreading out manifests as what we feel as mass. And inertia, that resistance to changing motion, is described as a field-resistant coherence lock. It binds mass to motion through this hypergravity frame, like sticky glue.
Okay.
But here's the really wild part. Inertia is presented as a variable property.
Variable, not constant.
Not constant. The inertial mass isn't fixed. It's the rest mass time and inertial coherence factor, which depends on the local field alignment. This means inertia is tunable through hypergravitational modulation.
Tunable inertia. Wait. If inertia, the basic resistance to moving things, if that can be changed, what does that even mean? The implications are staggering.
They are. It suggests the very difficulty of accelerating objects could be controlled, reduced, maybe even eliminated. Imagine no g-forces in a spaceship. Imagine moving massive objects effortlessly. It changes everything.
And gravity itself. We've been stuck for decades trying to reconcile general relativity for the big stuff and quantum mechanics for the small stuff. Does coherence physics offer a bridge here? It almost sounds too neat.
It proposes exactly that. It reframes gravity and quantum mechanics as coherence effects or limits. Gravity isn't primarily a force, nor just space-time geometry being warped by mass. Instead, it's defined as a gradient of coherence collapse.
So gravity is where coherence breaks down.
Essentially, yes. Gravitational attraction arises from localized reductions in that coherence coefficient. This reduction then causes space-time curvature as a kind of compensatory effect, a phase deformation. So instead of mass causing gravity directly, mass is an effect of coherence reduction, and gravity is the manifestation of that coherence gradient. It flips cause and effect. And all the weird quantum stuff, superposition, entanglement, wave function collapse.
Yeah, the probabilistic, seemingly random behavior.
Yeah, it gets reinterpreted too. It's not seen as inherent randomness in reality. It's proposed to be a result of dimensional truncation.
Dimensional truncation. Like we're only seeing part of the picture.
Exactly. Imagine you're looking at the 2D shadow of a complex 3D object rotating. The shadow might seem to behave strangely, randomly appearing and disappearing.
But if you saw the full 3D object, it would make perfect sense.
Precisely. Dimensional truncation means the hypergravity-aligned coherence frame, the full picture, is cut off from our standard 3D observation. Within their full hyperdimensional coherence field, quantum systems could remain totally deterministic.
So the randomness is just our limited perspective.
That's the claim. A monumental one, I know. What we see as random is just an incomplete view of an ordered system. So the paper basically suggests that general relativity and quantum mechanics are just limit cases of coherence physics. GR emerges when coherence spreads out and thins coherence dispersal. QM emerges when we only see a slice of the picture, coherence truncation. Coherence physics, by revealing the underlying hyperdimensional structure, potentially unifies them. It suggests all the paradoxes might just be artifacts of our limited view.
This completely flips everything, seriously. So, okay, what about the big one? The speed of light. And all those relativistic effects, time dilation, mass increase that Einstein gave us, are those not fundamental either?
This is probably one of the most radical parts, yeah. The papers frame relativity as coherence degeneration. Those effects, time slowing down, mass increasing as you approach sphere. They're presented not as unbreakable laws, but as symptoms of coherence loss.
Symptoms, like getting sick.
Kind of. As a system accelerates, its alignment with that hypergravity field weakens. Its coherence coefficient drops towards zero, and as if drops, those relativistic effects kick in harder and harder. But then comes the relativistic inversion principle.
Yeah.
This is the key. If, and it's a big if, coherence is preserved, if you can somehow stabilize EV, even at high speeds, then those relativistic effects can be bypassed entirely.
Bypassed, you mean?
It implies the possibility of traveling faster than light without violating causal consistency.
Faster than light, without paradoxes.
That's the idea. No time dilation for the travelers, no infinite mass increase, no inertial lock crushing you. The system becomes relativistically transparent. See, the usual speed limit comes from field drag or frame drag. As you push something faster, it resists more because its alignment with the coherent vacuum gets disrupted. The papers show this drag is related to the coherence gradient. But if you can engineer a situation where that gradient is zero,
zero.
no drag, which allows a smooth transition past the speed of light boundary, no resistance. It's fascinating how coherence seems to just dissolve these problems that have stumped physics for so long. It turns fundamental barriers into potentially engineering challenges of field alignment.
So the universe isn't saying thou shalt not pass C, it's saying align thyself first.
That's a pretty good way to look at it, yeah.
Okay. If these principles hold up, what can we actually do with them? Let's talk practicalities. Anti-gravity, inertia dampening, clean energy. This sounds like taking sci-fi blueprints and making them real.
It really does. The implications are just vast. Take anti-gravity and inertia dampening. They're not about fighting forces, but about restoring alignment. Anti-gravity isn't pushing against gravity, it's canceling the coherence collapse gradient that creates the curvature we feel as gravity.
So you smooth out the dent in the coherence field.
Effectively, yes. The math they show suggests you can modulate coherence to nullify gravity, or even reverse it. Imagine levitating platforms, vehicles totally immune to gravity, vertical cities, effortless construction. And inertia, like we said, becomes variable, turnable. The papers talk about techniques like hypergravity phase compensation, realigning the object's internal coherence, resonance shell synchronization, using harmonics to match the object's field to the local space-time flow, and even creating inertial bubble fields where the inertial factor is near zero, basically zero inertia inside the bubble.
Like wrapping something in a frictionless coating, but for inertia itself?
That's a decent analogy. Tuning it until it resonates perfectly, removing resistance. And this just transforms propulsion. Movement becomes not through thrust, but through coherence migration.
Coherence
Yeah,
migrated.
you accelerate by shaping the local coherence potential, creating a gradient, a slope in the field that the object follows. And the amazing part, acceleration happens without fuel, without g-forces, and without thermal losses.
No G's. Silent acceleration.
Yeah.
That's revolutionary.
Completely. The papers mention things like silent lift systems, imagine lifting huge structures silently, space-to-orbit coherence rails, maybe instantaneous rocket-free launches, and FTL drive initiation zones, specific areas where you'd start superluminal travel. It's a totally different way of moving. Effortless, clean, potentially instantaneous.
Mind-bending. Absolutely mind-bending. And the energy side, just as profound, right? How does this shift how we power, well, everything?
Oh, absolutely. Remember, energy comes from structured coherence gradients, not random noise. It's about tapping the architecture of reality. They introduced something called the coherence energy integral. Think of it like Gauss's law for coherence flow. You're not harvesting electric flux, you're harvesting coherence phase differentials, drawing power from the universe's organized flow.
Like a cosmic hydroelectric dam, but using coherence instead of water.
That's a really good analogy, actually. And they describe the architecture for CFP extraction chambers. It's fascinating stuff. You'd have a resonance-stabilized core to maintain high coherence, like a calm, high-energy pool, phase gradient amplifiers to keep the coherence flowing directionally, creating the current, and tunable harmonic membranes to filter and align the field for maximum extraction. It's all about resonance capture, routing the vacuum structure into usable power. And get this, it even redefines thermodynamics.
How so?
Entropy, the tendency towards disorder. Here, it's seen as coherence dissipation. Things decay because their coherence breaks down. But negentropy, order, that's sustained by maintaining high coherence, high Weinges.
So the universe isn't doomed to heat death if we can maintain coherence.
That's the implication. And work isn't done by heat gradients like in our engines. It's done by the controlled reduction of coherence. Coherence becomes the new energy currency. Efficiency means minimizing coherence loss, not waste heat. The applications are just transformative. Coherence batteries, storing high coherence zones.
Like batteries that never degrade.
Potentially. Resonant power rings for cities. Field pulse reactors generating thrust and power. And these systems are described as silent, radiation-free, scalable, entropy-minimizing, quantum-safe.
So, no more pollution. No more resource wars.
That's the vision. Clean, abundant power drawn directly from the fabric of reality. For planets, for spaceships,
Yeah.
forever.
It really feels like we're just scratching the surface,
Yeah.
tapping the structure of reality for power. Wow, okay, this leads right back to the big dream. If relativity can be bypassed, how does this actually enable FTL? Faster than light travel? Warp drives?
Yeah, it connects directly through FTL coherence and relativistic inversion. FTL travel here isn't about violating limits brute force style. It's about maintaining hypercoherence across velocity frames.
Staying perfectly aligned even when going super fast.
Exactly. The ship enters a coherence-locked state. Its internal fields stay perfectly synced with the hypergravitational frame. Even as velocity passes c, it becomes relativistically transparent. No time dilation, no mass increase, no inertial lock. You're essentially immune to relativistic effects. Remember that field drag that normally causes the speed limit?
Yeah, the resistance from disrupting the vacuum.
If you maintain coherence, the gradient is zero. No gradient, no drag.
So the barrier just vanishes.
It allows a smooth transition beyond c. The friction was an illusion caused by decoherence. They lay out a coherent FTL protocol. Specific requirements. You need invariant coherence anchoring, locking the ship's internal coherent, an inertial compensation field to actively cancel any residual frame drag, zero inertia bubble, velocity-independent phase shielding, keeping coherence high no matter the speed, and phase-invariant navigation, plotting courses through hyperdimensional resonance space, not just regular spacetime. And crucially, this leads to superluminal displacement without paradox.
That's always been the big problem with FTL, right? Causality loops.
Exactly. But because these coherent systems don't experience time contraction or causal disconnection, the travel is proposed as paradox-free.
How?
Events are phase-aligned rather than temporally ordered. Sequence depends on coherence phase, not just time. Communication is coherence encoded, not signal speed limited. Instantaneous potential. Navigation is spatially disjoint but topologically continuous. It creates a non-local but causal continuity. It basically sidesteps paradoxes by operating at a deeper level where those relativistic limits don't apply because coherence is maintained.
Fascinating. So FTL isn't brute force, it's elegance, alignment, which leads to the warp drive itself. how does that work in this coherence model? Not like Star Trek's exotic matter, I assume.
No, not exotic matter. It works by reshaping the coherent field that defines the structure of space itself. You modulate the coherence coefficient spatially. This creates a localized asymmetry. Space contracts in front, negative coherence gradient,
Pulling you forward.
and expands behind, positive coherence gradient, pushing you along. It's a subtle, resonant coherence fold. Think of surfing a perfectly controlled ripple on the coherence field, not violently tearing space. They describe the warp bubble structure. There's the interior zone, where the gradient is zero, perfectly stable, no forces felt. That's where the crew is.
Safe and sound.
Then the bubble wall, where the gradient is highest, where the spatial deformation happens, the contraction and expansion zone, and exterior space, which is undisturbed. This engineered phase cavity lets you move space-time without feeling it inside. Your effective velocity depends on the steepness of that coherence gradient across the bubble.
So the ship doesn't move through space, it carries its space with it.
That's the essence of it, yes. And this leads to coherence navigation, or topological steering. Space isn't empty, remember. It's a resonance-structured medium. It has natural coherence corridors, like quantum superhighways, paths of least resistance, torsional nodes, like cosmic crossroads, and hyperdimensional folds, shortcuts.
So you navigate by finding these structures.
Exactly. You map the local coherence gradients, find these resonance tunnels, and align your warp envelope to glide through them. It's like slipping through coherent channels, following the natural contours of reality's structure. They even mention dimensional steering.
What's that?
Since dimension itself is linked to coherence levels, by shifting your coherence phase, you might reposition not just in space, but dimensionally, allowing instantaneous trajectory redirection or phase-match long jumps.
Like sidestepping obstacles by briefly shifting state.
That's the implication. Navigating the universe's architecture in a completely new way.
Okay, so if we're building this coherence harmonizer, what does it actually look like? What are the components? It can't be just metal and wires.
Definitely not. It's described more like a structured node of dynamic symmetry preservation, an engineered organism almost. Its design has to integrate phase stability, coherence containment, energy modulation, navigation, everything. The core component is the structural resonance hull, SRH, not passive metal. It's an active coherence phase membrane.
A living...
In a sense, it keeps the inside stable, maintains internal Leck invariance no matter what's happening outside. It constantly tunes to external coherence gradients, sensing and adapting. It deflects or absorbs incoherent phase perturbations, radiation, turbulence by harmonizing with them. And it anchors the vessel to that hypergravity invariance, enabling the bypass of relativity. Inside that, or central to it, is the inertial null core, INC. This is key for eliminating inertia and drag effects. It generates a zone where the coherence gradient is zero, mass and inertia effectively cancel out inside.
So that's where the crew and controls go.
Exactly. It's the stable anchor, formed by precisely balanced interference nodes of opposing coherence gradients. This is why you feel zero acceleration. The outermost layer is the dynamic phase shielding, BPS. This is an armor plating. It's an adaptive field generated by the hull. It neutralizes incoming decoherent fields, radiation, debris field. It modulates boundary resonance constantly, adapting to local space. And it generates tunable field profiles to shape the warp envelope itself, adapts in real time. And connecting everything internally is the internal harmonic coupling matrix. All systems, navigation, power, shielding, AI, life support are phase-locked.
Working together like organs in a body.
Precisely. If one part drifts, the whole system compensates. It functions as a unified coherence organism, managed by a intelligent core node, an AI biological hybrid intelligence that balances everything, the ship's central nervous system.
It really does sound less like a machine and more like...
Yeah,
a living entity, or an extension of consciousness. You mentioned this symbiotic design paradigm. What does that mean for the people on board? It sounds like more than just being passengers.
It's a radical departure, yeah. The symbiotic design paradigm, the papers state, a successful warpcraft is not engineered solely for function, but designed for resonant inhabitation.
Resonant inhabitation.
Meaning the pilot, the crew, the ship, they're all coherence participants.
Right.
It suggests consciousness plays an active role. Consciousness enhances symmetry restoration.
Our minds help stabilize the ship's field.
That's the idea. Focused awareness, clarity, it contributes. And biological systems act as quantum stabilizers. Our complex bodies help maintain the ship's overall coherence just by being there, even more profound. Collective awareness modulates coherence gradients for navigation.
The crew's shared thoughts can help steer the ship.
By resonating with those coherence corridors, yes, that's the implication. So Warcraft design merges physics with biocognitive coherence alignment, creating a living vessel that resonates through space as an extension of intelligent order.
Wow, that redefines our relationship with technology and the universe.
It really does. It suggests our ships become extensions of our being, harmonizing with the cosmos, less flying, more becoming.
What an absolutely incredible journey we've taken in this deep dive, just trying to wrap my head around it all. We reframed ZPE as the coherence field potential, moving from randomness to structure. Redefined warp drive as coherence phase engineering, not exotic matter. Saw how relativity, gravity, FTL could all fall under this umbrella of coherence modulation. We even looked at architectures for these coherent vessels, powered by resonance, navigating by topology. It really feels like glimpsing a far more elegant, interconnected universe.
It really does. And that core message from the source material is powerful. The universe is not a fixed arena, but a resonant unfolding. Our bodies, ships, and stars are just coherence configurations, unfolding dynamically from the invisible architecture of the coherence field. Warp travel is not an act of force, but an act of phase resonance, a graceful glide across the fabric of generative order. It paints a picture of a living, responsive, orderly cosmos.
So, for you listening, grappling with these huge ideas, what's next? Does the paper suggest how we might actually start building this future? It can't just be theory, right?
No, they outline specific future vectors for R&D. Concrete steps. First, experimental coherence tensor engineering, actually trying to build prototype phase modulators using optics, interferometry, maybe even biological systems.
Getting hands-on with coherence.
Exactly. Second, simulation of coherence chambers and those inertial null cores, modeling them computationally before building. Third, developing the harmonic shielding systems, new metamaterials, AI field balancing tech, practical shielding. And finally, the most ambitious, intelligent integration.
The mind-machine interface.
Pretty much. Exploring how biological and artificial intelligence can symbiotically guide these vessels, developing the protocols for consciousness to integrate with the ship's coherence structure, navigating by shared intent. It's about redefining the link between mind and reality. Huge implications.
And as we wrap up this really mind-expanding deep dive, the author leaves us with this final thought, real anchor point. Warp is not about speed. Warp is about alignment. It really invites us to rethink everything, not just travel, but our place in the cosmos, how we exist, maybe how we can better align ourselves with that fundamental, coherent nature of reality. Lots to think about. Keep exploring, keep questioning, keep that alignment in mind.